What is the meaning of welcome home? It's a complicated question, especially for Vietnam veterans.
My whole life changed at age 18.
But in honor of Veterans Day, we are on a mission to find answers. According to the VA, Vietnam-era veterans represent about 7 million Americans. That is the largest cohort of U.S. vets. It's been 47 years since the Vietnam War ended, and for many, these stories can be difficult to share.
And I'm still not open to many people about it.
The federal government estimates anywhere from 2.6 to 3.8 million military members were exposed to dangerous chemicals during that era. Health struggles from Agent Orange are a sad reality for so many.
I know they sprayed a lot of that stuff up in I-Corps.
There were no cheers to speak of when they came home.
Someone immediately proceeded to throw ketchup on my uniform.
So our search for answers started with taking a trip on the first honor flight out of Albany in 3 years. A 16-hour travel day full of mixed emotions.
That's why I did this. I'm hoping I can get it to his brother so he can see his own brother on the wall.
And the welcome home celebrations, although touching, did they come too late? Thank you for coming today. We spoke to 6 local Vietnam veterans to find out.
My name is Terry Smith. I was in Vietnam September 67 to September 68.
My name is John Broderick. I was in the United States Army. I was in from 1967 to 1972.
My name is Emil Baker. I was in the U.S. Army 70 to 72.
My name is Geb Wolf, United States Army, 1969 and 1972.
My name is Larry J. Turner, served in the United States Marine Corps from 1969 to 1971.
My name is Helene Wallingford. I served in the United States Navy Nurse Corps from 1965 to 1970.
So I want to start off by talking about something I have heard time and time again from many Vietnam veterans. They have not spoken about their experience in the war for so many years. How long did it take you all to talk about your experience?
Probably 30 years before I spoke. And I'm still not open to many people about it.
I didn't talk, and I'd had a second tour after that first tour, but that first tour was not enough to turn around and get me to talk at all.
25 years. I've never really talked about what we did in Vietnam or some of the atrocities or some of the craziness that went on. Nobody ever really wanted to hear it. I mean, you know, some of the things were, you know, pretty crazy.
Stephanie, I waited 15 years before I talked about it. I actually hid my service from coworkers and friends. It wasn't a positive thing to talk about. It never got a good comment, and it was well hidden by many of us.
Now, one of the common misconceptions about Vietnam veterans is that the majority of them were drafted, and that is simply not the case. 2/3 of Vietnam veterans actually volunteered to go to war. I think it's really important that we hear what your experience was in joining the military, each of you.
Mine was unique in that my mother was in the Nurses Corps in World War II. My father was in the Army, and I went in and enlisted one day when I was still 18. Came home and explained it, and they got kind of mad at me and said, "You didn't talk about it." They said, "You're an only son. You don't have to go to Vietnam." And I said, "I'm going to do what I want to do."
17 years of age. There was a lot going on. Civil rights movement, the war protests, and I was pretty much heading down a different direction. I decided, said, well, you know, I have to do something to change my life. And again, my friend through the recruiting station met up again with the recruiter, the gunny sergeant. He convinced me, right, that the Marine Corps had changed my life.
I got drafted, you know what I mean? I didn't know Vietnam from Vales Mills. I didn't realize there was a war going on. I didn't know it. I was just footloose and fancy free. So, you know, I was drafted, and then reception or whatever it was, a couple days, I had no idea what was going on. So I was in the Army about 5 months. Then I was given 30 days off, and then Vietnam as a combat infantry soldier. They didn't teach me any skills of any value. You know, So it was a horrible experience.
How about you, John?
I had a graduation game plan that I had the draft number of 17 in Albany County. Where was I going to go with 17? I was going to go to Vietnam somehow. Then I discovered through friends there was an ROTC deferment program, that if I went into ROTC at Cornell, I'd be deferred for 4 years. And in my young head of 18 years old, I said to myself, it'll all be over by then. I graduated in 1967, and I was in rice paddies within 6 months after I graduated.
I was a 20-year-old college nursing student, and the Navy recruiters came on campus and were trying to recruit student nurses, and it sounded wonderful to me. So I joined the Navy in one of their scholarship programs. I got out of college in '65 and went on active duty at that time. My first duty station was in Pensacola, Florida, and I was there for 2 years, and by that time Vietnam was roaring. So when I was transferred, that's where I went, was to Yokosuka, Japan, for all the combat wounded sent there.
I was 18 in fear of getting a draft notice. I qualified for OCS, or Warrant Officer Flight Training. Flying helicopters sounded like a thing that would be kind of cool, and I enjoyed aviation as a hobby as a kid, a younger kid, and at 18, I was in for it. I was going.
Landing in Vietnam.
To be honest, I was scared.
Some spent their days in Hueys, others in rice paddies. Coming up on Veterans Voices, the memories that took them years to share. If you had one memory you thought of many times since you were in war, what's that memory for you?
There's so many memories and so many things when you think back, and now at this age you think, I was crazy. We adjusted to it and we found that was the norm. And I think that in later life helped most of us to realize if we could get through that, we'll get through anything. You realize at the time that there's no other way to deal with it, so you have to adjust to it and you have to find yourself able to function in it, or you're going to get killed just out of fear.
Survival.
Yes, exactly.
I think I came back a stronger patriot than I did when I left. One of the most gratifying things that I did over there was on a Thanksgiving Day. We were asked if we could bring hot meals out to the guys in the field. We picked our way up through the side of the mountain until we found the unit and then brought out the hot food to them, and we would lower it from the helicopter down to them. That was one of the most satisfying things I've done. Combat-wise, there was a lot of situations that are memorable, but those aren't really, they're sad in a way, but they all added to my experience level, and I had fond memories. They weren't all bad memories in Vietnam, but that's my outlook anyway.
Did anyone else have a very different experience?
Me. They brought me a dinner on Thanksgiving, the helicopters. And I no sooner got it than we got hit. You know what I mean? And I just took it and I put it right on the ground, upside down. You know what I mean? Like, we didn't get food like that very often. And then when we did get it, it was something special. And they just waited until that opportune time when they know we'd be hanging out, and that's when they start shooting at us. You know what I mean? So like, it's like, pick up the gun or eat dinner. I mean, I really would have wanted to eat dinner, but that had to go, and it was time to go back. That's what it was like for me. The good memories are few and far between. Mostly it's tough memories.
I guess that's the truth. Tough memories. Yeah.
I remember one night I had caught guard duty. When I got to my hoop's entrance, I seen my friend. He was on the deck, and he was kicking, foaming at the mouth, eyes rolling back. To be honest, I was scared. When I got to the field hospital, I had met a nurse, and I was inquiring about the person I was looking for, just going through and looking on both sides, the bedding, and you can just smell certain things, and people's legs hanging up, this and that and the other, people wrapped up in all kind of bandages. And I'll never forget that.
I'd like to build on what Larry said a little bit about his friend. So when they got to us at the Naval Hospital, they'd had their initial care at the field hospital in Vietnam. And we either mended them enough to go back in country, or we stabilized them further that they could come home, or they didn't make it. And there are still some of those boys that are embedded in my memory. What their life was going to be like when they got home, the outlook was not real good. And I always thought about the families that we were sending these young boys, and they were young boys, home to.
Coming home to an angry America.
We got into the San Francisco airport, and someone immediately proceeded to throw ketchup on my uniform.
The lasting impact both mentally and physically on these vets.
Welcome home. I know is difficult for many of you to hear, or you're grateful to hear it. How about you all? How do you feel about that phrase?
It's a very difficult phrase to absorb in your mind. So I came back by myself and got into the San Francisco airport, and someone immediately proceeded to throw ketchup on my uniform. It was handled, and somebody cleaned my uniform such that I could fly back to New York and visit with my parents before I went to my next duty station.
The comfort only comes when it's another veteran for me to say that, another Vietnam veteran. I never knew 4 of these vets here at all, and now I feel like they're part of me and I'm part of them. Welcome home to all of you. It's a different phrase when it comes from us, exactly what you said, because we mean it in here and we mean it to them.
It's too little too late, you know what I mean? It left such a hurt, such a mark. When you came back, you thought you did a great service, and then you were treated completely differently than what you thought. And that's not something that goes away very easily.
Would you all mind by just showing a show of hands, who here feels like they're dealing with post-traumatic stress or dealt with it at some point in their life?
I think it absolutely did. I came back, and again, there's a terrible adjustment period of 4 years of drunkenness when I got out of the service, and my life just fell apart. But then I stopped drinking and I started doing work, and that drove me to excel at what I did and to just try to be the best.
You know what, honestly, when I first came home and they did an exam on me, for some reason, right, there was nothing wrong with me, I was okay, you know, and I think that was all wrong.
The U.S. Air Force sprayed almost 19 million gallons of herbicides during Vietnam. The purpose was to remove crops and see enemy forces, but that strategy also harmed our troops. The VA first recognized some diseases and cancers were linked to Agent Orange back in 1984. But there were several barriers needed to prove that connection. Over the years, more presumptive conditions and locations have been added for coverage.
How has your health been impacted by the war, and how are you still having those impacts today?
My medical health 10 years ago started to be questioned. I explored some of the Agent Orange illnesses. I was at 90% disabled, and I've just been told I'm going to go to 100%. I constantly say this is from the Agent Orange. I've accepted it.
Anybody else still having physical impacts?
Yeah, I'm being compensated as well. High blood pressure, diabetes too, type 2. And I think the problem I'm having with my nervous system, I just don't want to blame it on Agent Orange, but I'm pretty sure it has something to do with it. because I know they sprayed a lot of that stuff up in I-Corps, you know.
The way I got the benefits was I went in to get the discount for Home Depot, and they did the run-up on me, and then they found out, well, you get Agent Orange. So.
Right.
Coming up on Veterans Voices, we join some of these veterans on a trip to Washington, D.C. to see the Vietnam Wall.
He was my best friend.
And their wish from the community on Veterans Day. Time may not heal all wounds, but it has changed the way Vietnam veterans are treated here in America. Proof of that is an initiative called the Honor Flight. Just last month, over 100 local veterans traveled to Washington, D.C. to visit the Vietnam Wall. We joined that group of veterans on the very first honor flight out of Albany International Airport in over 3 years. And it all started with a hero's send-off. This type of fanfare may be familiar to World War II vets, but for those who served in Vietnam, all this fuss is foreign.
I'm really surprised at the emotions. I didn't think it would be that way.
This trip is a first for Geb Wolf, a former aircraft commander serving during Vietnam.
I'm most looking forward to going to the wall and seeing my friends.
But Geb isn't taking the journey alone. His 20-year-old grandson, Jack Murphy, is by his side.
He's the reason that I wanted to join the Army. Never seen him anything other than kind of, I don't know how to...
Stoic.
Yeah, stoic.
But today is different. We wave goodbye to Albany.
Hi, my name is Greg. I've been asked to ride on this bus today.
Who asked you?
Laughter and some mild heckling filled our journey to D.C.
The people on the other bus.
Our first stop, taking in the sights of the World War II Memorial. And getting close for a photo op underneath the Washington Monument.
Forward! March!
Then to Arlington National Cemetery for the changing of the guard at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. That scuff, a small breach of protocol to salute our group of veterans. I returned to my seatmate, Terry Smith, who opened up about his time as a combat infantry soldier in Vietnam.
The living conditions were worse than being shot at. It made me feel, like an animal. Every day, then you got up again and wore the same clothes, shaved out of your helmet, brushed your teeth out of your helmet.
Our last stop, the Vietnam Wall, was fast approaching. Terry says he doesn't know how to feel.
I've seen a lot of guys killed. I've seen a lot of guys hurt. I wanted to keep my name off that wall, so the best thing for me to do is just, be reverent and get out.
Many fell silent, standing in front of names they can't forget.
That David S. Easton, my wife's cousin.
Memories they can't change.
I got it.
As promised, Jack helped Grandpa find his friends.
Gregory Allen Smith, right there. He was my best friend. I remember everything about him. He was a great guy.
Geb and many others clutched those rubbings as we returned to Albany. But the mood shifted as we walked out of the gate to a surprise. Families embraced, grandkids proudly held up signs. A far cry from the cruel words and spitting faces they saw back in the 1970s.
The whole country had turned against us, so I appreciate all this, and better late than never.
A homecoming 50-some years later.
How'd you feel about the welcome that you got today?
Outstanding.
I got to the wall and I just started crying. Just started, I couldn't stop it. And I was so surprised at my reaction. And of course, one of the docents there said, "Welcome home." And that just brought the tears, even stronger.
Like I say, like he said, it should have been said 30, 40 years ago.
I think they're trying to learn from their mistakes, but there are no number of parades or thank you for your service is truly going to make up for the treatment.
My son went in the Army. The important thing is we don't want that to happen to the young veterans, what we experience. So it's important, that we not let that happen to them, the Iraqi and Afghan vets.
It's more important to me to see the current and the younger veterans and the ones still in the military being respected. I know they can't fix what happened to us, but to see how they're treated, it's more important than saying welcome home to me.
You've brought up the Afghanistan-Iraqi war veterans. That's really important to you, right? But I've also heard a mention of the World War II veterans, because that's who you looked up to many times.
Oh yeah, we grew up with them.
They saved the world.
Now, we call them the greatest generation. You all are the most prevalent group of veterans at this point. What do you want your name to be? What would you hope that your lasting mark is on the world?
We were the vanguard of veterans that were poorly treated, and it should never be done again.
We want to be the last veterans that are treated badly and that are disrespected. And we want all veterans and all military going forward to be respected, honored, and welcomed.
Perhaps the veterans that made a difference.
To our veterans watching, thank you for your sacrifice and defending our freedoms we enjoy each and every day. From all of us here at News 10, Happy Veterans Day.